Maskagero, welcome, welcome. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. صباح الخير, مساء الخير, السلام عليكم. أهلا وسهلا, welcome, welcome, welcome. Here is the Nubia Initiative for Black Power as part of our contribution to the Global Day of Action for Black Power, for the empowerment of people of African ancestry. We are doing our part through sharing knowledge, through sharing art, through sharing love. And we are here to amplify and share some amazing, amazing news. I will be sharing some links for this exceptionally talented brother, Hatem Arbaab, who will be sharing with us his creation, the miracle of Amanirenas. We're just going to wait for more people to tune in because we're going to actually start over with with the reading of this comic. So as you tune in, tell us who you are, where you're tuning in from, if you're Nubian by love or by lineage. For those of you who have followed us at Nubia Fest 2020, this is one of the outcomes, and credit goes to Minna Agha for introducing that terminology. There are two kinds of Nubians, Nubians by love and Nubians by lineage. We have two Nubians by lineage here, but there is no shortage in this world of Nubians by love. So we are so excited to have you here. We are so excited to share this amazing creation that we have. I have with me here Arbaab, who will tell us a little bit about himself. As you come in and settle in, please take a moment, share this video, share these links, tag your friends, bring them through, and let's learn a little bit about Nubian heritage and why and how it inspired Arbaab to create this masterpiece that is the miracle of Amanirenas. Arbaab, tell us, who are you?
Hello, everybody. My name's Arbaab, and I am a Sudanese American, and someone who was on or is on, depending on how you want to look at it, a journey of better connecting with my roots and heritage, and through that process helping other people better understand their history, where they come from, their culture. And a part of that has been this comic that I've written and illustrated.
That's amazing. Thank you. And this is also what the Nubia Initiative is all about. My name is Dima Mahmoud. For those of you tuning in to our platforms for the first time, I am the co-founder of the Nubia Initiative. And my sister and I started this organization to protect, preserve, and promote our endangered Nubian heritage. And before starting it, there was this challenge of, we don't know enough about our heritage. We don't know enough about our culture. We don't even know our language. How are we going to protect it? How are we going to promote it? How can we even begin to preserve it if we don't know what it is? And we were faced with two options. We could sit and do nothing about it and continue losing this heritage and continue losing this knowledge, or we can learn to teach and teach as we learn and learn together. And so to how you were saying, depending on how you look at it, Hatem, whether you were trying to connect or you are trying to connect, and I think we are innately always trying to connect and always trying to find this purpose, find what it was that brought our souls back to this earth, back in this time, and how we connect to one another. So thank you so much for joining us, for taking this time. And more importantly, thank you for creating this masterpiece. Please share it with us if you can. Share the screen. We are going to have a little reading. So please, please, please tag your friends. Enjoy this because it was the highlight of my night, the evening that Arbaab reached out and said, would you take a look at this? made my night. It was my treat to a very, very long night of working. And let me just add this to the stream.
Okay. Can everybody see?
Yes, I believe so. Yes, it is live and that is seen. I can make it bigger so that it's just the screen here. Yes.
Okay. And you can see the cover of the book, right?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So, ready?
Yes, please.
Here we go. The Miracle of Amanirenas, a Nubian miracle written and illustrated by me, Hatem Arbaab. A miracle performed by Amanirenas, the one-eyed Kandaka, in the forgiveness of God. Amen. Listen, my dear. In ancient times, when the great river was split into 3 rivers instead of 2, the Nubian people were also split into 3 tribes: the people of the palm trees, the people of the sorghum fields, and the people of the lemon groves. These 3 tribes were always at war. Little arguments would boil over into bloody clashes. A greedy emperor from the north soon came and conquered Nubia. He would send his soldiers to demand payment of dates, limes, and sorghum every year. Because they were always fighting each other, the Nubians were too weak to fight back. One year, Nubia was struck with drought, and the 3 tribes couldn't make their payment. "We can barely feed ourselves," the chiefs told the emperor. "Now that you've said that, I want this month's payment to be twice as big, or else." The Nubian people prayed to God for help. For months, none came. One night, the guest star was spotted in the sky. The Nubians knew this signaled the coming of a guest who deserved their hospitality. A member of the sorghum field tribe went out to welcome this guest. They found a sickly old lady in a boat and brought her to dry land. Each tribe came together to build a small shelter for her, contributing food and medicine to nurse her back to health. Once she recovered, the chiefs of each tribe came to visit her. "You are starving," the stranger lamented, "but you still feed me. We are Nubians. It is our custom to be generous, no matter what. I am a foreigner, but you still cared for me. We are Nubians. It is our custom to show compassion to people, no matter where they come from. You are poor, but you still sheltered me. We are Nubians. It is not our custom to ask for repayment. Truly, you are a noble people." There was a flash of light, and the old stranger transformed into a strong, healthy warrior. "I am Amanirenas, servant of Her Majesty, the all-seeing Lady of the Stars. She has told me that a noble people living on the banks of the great river suffer under the rule of an evil emperor. I will free you, but you must make me 2 promises. First, you must stop fighting each other. You are to become one united Nubian people. Second, you must promise to make me and all my future daughters the queens of a united Nubia." The 3 chiefs agreed to Amanirenas' terms and assembled a united army, redirecting their weapons away from one another and toward their oppressor. Amanirenas laughed. "You don't need weapons. Put those away and cook the finest meals Nubia has to offer." "Cook? And just how are we supposed to fight? You're gonna get us all killed." "Trust me." The next day, the Nubian army traveled to meet with the emperor, bringing dishes stacked high with salab, yogurt, fish, kabida, kisra, and large jugs of abre and sherbet. "Dear emperor, we have come to hold a feast in your honor," Amanirenas said. The emperor, seeing the delicious Nubian food, could not resist. As the table was being set, Amanirenas told the soldiers, "Don't eat a bite. Let them have all the food." The Nubians then watched hungrily as the emperor and his men gorged themselves on their food. Soon the table was clear, and the emperor and his men were groggy, some collapsing from all the food they'd eaten. The Nubians then snuck outside. Amanirenas stood at the door of the castle. Barricade the door, she ordered the soldiers. Then Amanirenas began chanting in a mysterious language. And then the castle rocketed into the sky. A celebration was held, and Amanirenas was crowned queen of the now united Nubia. The Nubians kept their promise. The daughters of Amanirenas rule Nubia to this day. The end.
Amazing. Again and again and again and again and again. Amazing. Especially, okay, I'm not going to get into my favorite part. I will allow our audience to engage and ask their question. And the first question was from Mazen. Why not Tarkin? Can we explain to our non-Nubian family here who are tuning in, because we are global on this platform? So what is Tarkin?
Yeah, that's a good question. This is an opportunity where I can be taught something.
Mazen, do you want to tell us what Tarkin is? I know it is some form of fermented fish, I want to say. And if Mejde is tuning in, I'm sure his stomach is turning already. He has nightmares about Tarkin. Anytime anyone talks about Nubian food, he's like, no, anything but Tarkin, no Tarkin, no Tarkin. Mazen, can you tell us what Tarkin is? I loved that she said, put your weapons down.
Fermented fish, okay. Makes
It
sense.
is fermented.
Good job, Dima. Oh, I've actually heard about this. Yeah, no, I know what Tarkin is. I've had it described to me. I had a really close Halfawiya friend. She described to me the process of making this, and I think I was mostly horrified. It's like, I'm sure it's delicious. It's that old saying, everyone likes sausage, no one wants to know how it's made. I'm sure this is this process here.
Yeah, smelly fish. Yes. It's very, 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 very smelly. And I think it's a completely different thing, because I've had it explained to me, and I would have never correlated what was explained to me with what I ended up seeing on the plate in the end. But I tried it and I survived. It was good. I won't say it was. It's definitely an acquired taste. I'll say that.
Fish is often like that.
Yes. For those of you who are just tuning in, please, after this session, go to either Nubia, the Nubia Initiative, or Nubia Fest, or Africa Week 2020, or for Black Power. The previous panel was about the need for relaying our realities to our youth. And it was shit. Oh my God. Mazen is mortified. Yes, survived, Mazen, considering it's the first time I've had that. But hey, we have strengths in our differences. Enjoy your tarkin. It's just more for you if you think about it. Going back to why comics and why you put it really nicely in that panel. And I think obviously it resonates with us at the Nubia Initiative, because this is what we were trying to do, right? We're trying to be that bridge between the generations, be that bridge between the community and the academics. And you're adding an extra layer of being that bridge, because it's, again, not just Nubia within the academic context, but the way you put it was within an emotional sphere. And that to me is one, very personal, but also very important, because that's one thing people can't intervene with. People can't mess with your emotions, because people can't tell you how to feel. They can try, but they can't change how you feel. They can't change, what you feel when you see Amanirenas saying, trust me, with that eye, Why? why the creative space? Why comics? Why the youth? And why the emotional sphere?
Yeah. So starting with this issue of why the youth, I was talking about earlier how yesterday I was having a discussion with a Nubian woman, and she told me the one of the surest signs that a language is in danger is when the youth no longer have an interest in learning it and in speaking it. And I think that's just a microcosm for, in general, the issue of how do we pass on culture. And it always starts, I think, with the youth. They will become tomorrow's elders who will have to commit the act of continuing this heritage. So to ensure that, the continuity of Nubian culture remains, we have to make sure each link in that, chain, is informed and is capable of connecting to the next one. One of those links is, each of, the older people, and but the younger people are also a strong and essential link. And that's why it's important, I think, to target the youth, to use comics, which I think have the potential to resonate with someone in a way that the strict written text cannot. I think, and like you were saying, a huge part of this is taking Nubia out of the academic sphere and allowing it to occupy an emotional space. So this kind of brings me to what is my favorite scene. So it's actually the ending when you have Queen Unati. She's braiding her daughter's hair while telling her the story. It's revealed that that's what's happening here. I literally jumped with excitement when I came up with that scene, because it's that's kind of what I'm doing, isn't it? It's not someone being told a story by a random person while they're sitting on the floor, where there's this distance between them. It's being shared orally while doing something that's kind of intimate, something that's associated with bonding of braiding hair. And Unati, in that action, she's serving as this link between the past and the present. She is, passing down her heritage as an act of love with Wingy, ultimately. And that's what I think this comic is doing. It's supposed to be about love, self-love and love of our heritage, and passing that down in a way that is endearing and charming.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm getting emotional. Oral, the fact that it's passed orally, and that our tradition, not just as Nubians, but as Africans, as people of African ancestry, oral histories is how we pass our knowledge, which is a huge part of why we say Nubian heritage is endangered, because the Nubian language is endangered. And that sister was absolutely right. If you don't have that engagement, if you don't have that interest, and if, like you were saying on that panel earlier today, is if it's not cool enough for kids to engage, for youth to want to be part of it, then we're losing a huge part. We're losing that bridge into that future. So how important was knowing the language for you to create this?
I will say I tried to learn Nobeen. It didn't go the best. I just didn't have anyone to practice with, and learning resources are really scarce. For me, obviously I didn't write it in Nobeen, but when you try to learn Nobeen, you get, you just have the smallest glimpse of this culture that can be kind of seen through its own eyes, that tells its own story. Kind of it helped me understand a uniquely and solely Nubian perspective, because that's what happens when you learn a language. You learn a little bit about how people see and describe themselves. And I think it was really just kind of the essence of the language that kind of helped me bring this together. Obviously, I showed off my very little Nobian in the appendix, right? I wrote the title of the book in Nobian. I gave everybody, Nubian. I gave all the characters Nubian names, and I explained what those meant to the best of my ability. But, in the end, just this feeling of, I guess, Nubians seeing themselves through their eyes. That's what language is largely does, and that's a part of this comic itself.
Of course, well, communication.
Yeah.
Very, very, very basic, which is again why, for me personally, and for the Nubia Initiative to want to support and amplify this effort, is it matters for our youth to see us. Representation matters, and not just in trendy hashtaggy cool way of putting, but in actually representation in all that the miracle of Amanirenas presents or brings to life, whether it's stop fighting each other. You must stop fighting one another. And it's not just a lesson for Nubians. It's not just a lesson for Sudanese. It's not just a lesson for continental Africans. This is a message for all of us. But for Nubian youth to also know that you don't need to pick up weapons to do that. And the fact that Amanirenas, a woman, is saying that. And I say that from just remembering earlier in the year when there was this ridiculous rumor about my being appointed as the governor of Shamalia, or the governor of the northern state, and how some of the commentary is, what a shame for Nubians that a woman is representing them. What do you mean, what a shame for Nubians?
Yeah.
I mean, there was obviously the governor of the northern state is a woman, and it wasn't necessarily about me, but the fact that the idea itself is out there that, oh, no, Nubian women, have a certain place, have a certain, and you shattered that. And I guess I want to connect this to the element of history, the element of facts, and maybe you can also share a little bit or just a glimpse of the appendix to show the research that went into this, into how you were able to connect to history, but still give yourself that space to, like you were saying earlier in the other panel, to make it still relatable to modern day Nubians, young Sudanese, hopefully young Egyptians, young Africans, young kids just reading this and learning about that side of history from our side of the continent. Can you talk a little bit about that, please?
Yeah. So first off, I just want to start in terms of like the issue of like, women. And because like in the end, the Miracle of Amanirenas is a women-centric story. The main character, Amanirenas, is a woman. The chiefs are all women. Part of this is, ultimately a recognition that Nubian society has a history of matriarchy, where women are placed at the center of the narrative. So the legacy of greatness that, people worldwide inherit, but like, especially Nubians as well, that legacy of greatness has never been an exclusively male legacy. There is a long female legacy as well. And I think it was really, it would really say something about my inability to, divorce myself from patriarchal modes of thinking if my fantasy version of Nubia didn't have women in prominent political roles. So I think I think that was absolutely crucial to the story. I don't think it could have been the same story otherwise.
How would the story have affected you reading it as a child, would you think?
I think, had so little engagement with Nubian history as a child, and I never found it as like, I liked Greek mythology because I was reading Percy Jackson. I liked Egyptian history because I was reading the Kane Chronicles. And I guess what you can see there is that there's a pattern of what I read, I would eventually become interested in what it was based on. But there was nothing that was going to engage with me as a child that would help me learn about, get really familiar with my own history. So I think if I'd read it as a child, it would have done at least two things. One, it would have made Nubian heritage cool, and I would have, probably become more enthusiastic about it at a younger age than me coming into it quite late. And it also would have helped, kind of like expand my notion of, what can a Black person be, and, what can a woman be? Because I think media has this powerful ability. This is kind of said in Dear White People, a show that does this great, by the way, but it has this ability to shape, our imagination of like, what's possible for certain types of people, and it's kind of like how you were telling me about this, one of the few cartoons with a Nubian person at the center of it was Bakar. And until today, people, when they see a Nubian or they talk to a Nubian, they still bring up Bakar. So you see how media shapes these people's imagination. It gives them this kind of like basis to connect with a world that isn't immediately accessible to them. But when there's only one image, they fail to see that world in its complexity, and they often see that world in a very reductive fashion. So I think this work kind of like expands that imagination.
Yes, yes, and yes. It's so important. For example, and this is just one of the many reasons I shrieked and jumped with excitement when Vincent first tagged me to the first appearance of Winji on Twitter, is that my cousin's daughter, so my niece, her name is Winji. She is born here. She lives in Virginia. Fadi, if you're listening, shout out to Princess Winji. She will have something that will directly link to her. Having that book read to her, her reading that book, her then reading that book to her daughter, to her child, as if it were her, it makes such a difference. This is why I say we need more of this. We need more of this, again, beyond the hashtags, beyond the trends, for us. And when you say this is a labor of love, this is ultimately a message of love. This is intimacy in so many different ways between us as a people. It is so true. So I want to ask, what's been the kind of love you have been receiving since since you released this? How do you feel? Were you anxious? How are you? Yeah, before, after the works.
I was kind of worried that nobody was going to read it, and that didn't turn out to be the case. So I think I'm more than thankful. I'm happy that was it. A lot of people recognize the importance, or at least the potential, of what could be done. You had people saying things like, read this to your kids. You had people saying things, this is the history we should be teaching our children. Someone said, if this becomes available, I want to buy this for my nephew. So so many people, when they saw this, they said, they thought of the youth, right? And how this could engage with them. And that's the mission. They're going to be Queen Unati, passing down this story and passing down this self-love. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to create Queen Unatis and Princess Winjis throughout the global Black community, not just for Sudan, not just for Nubia, but for every single Black child out there, and for every single, Black parent or Black adult who didn't have something like this when they were young. Because I didn't. I just didn't.
And you changed it.
Yeah.
And you changed it and you're changing it. What was one of the comments that you read and you were just like, this is why I do what I do?
It was, I mean, it was definitely when I think Artur Obluski, was it?
Arthur, yes.
Yeah, said, read it to your kids. I think, was it that really, that's in the end what it's about. I'm glad adults are enjoying it. I mean, I still like Disney princess movies, so I think children's media has this way to kind of like traverse generational boundaries, but it's also still accessible to children and people can immediately see that. That brings me pride.
And you have much, much to be proud of. So, how can we grow this? How can how can we rally to have more of this?
Yeah, so, I'm trying to obviously have my GoFundMe. I've labeled it Kumanti. I'm probably saying that word wrong. One of the Nubian speakers here is going to be very angry with me, and I am going to totally understand. It means folk tales. And my goal is essentially to create a body of creative Nubia-inspired, Sudan-inspired folk tales. And this is the start. And I'm hopefully going to keep illustrating, keep on bringing stories inspired by our history and our culture, and keep at it. Hopefully, I just need yeah.
The support. And the
Yes.
support can come in different ways. And this
Yes.
is one way we can support. As the Nubia
Yes.
Initiative, we've yielded our platform to feature this. If you have a platform, if you're on Instagram and you can hold a live, Arbaab's on Instagram. Follow him. Please put your send me in the private chat or in the comments your handles, and I'll drop them in there. If you are on Twitter, retweet him, post whatever. If you're on Facebook, share this video, tag your friends. It's not all financial support, but if you do have the means, here is the GoFundMe link. Go fund him, please. Because we do need more. And he's already started working. That's the beauty of it. When you're doing this out of passion, when you're doing this out of love, you don't actually wait. And it's not like we were asking him to wait or to pump the brakes, because he's going to create it anyway, because he started this without any of us knowing any of it anyway. But if he's able to do it and get the encouragement and have the peace of mind not having to wonder about anything else. And just to tell you, this is a side note, out of my excitement, obviously we didn't play Hamza Deen in the beginning, and I also didn't actually ask you to introduce yourself as in what you do. Like what you do as in you're a student, what are you studying, and all of that. Arbaab is a student and working and creating this amazing, amazing work. If we can help as a family to take one of these things off, so he's juggling one last thing, can we imagine just where Winji will go? Can we imagine what lessons Winji will learn to teach? Can we imagine how many friends Winji will make from within Sudan, from across the continent, from the diaspora? I mean, looks like Winji might already be starting a pen paling with Wanda from our previous panel. But allow ourselves to imagine and allow ourselves to uplift one another, to keep doing what we love doing, because ultimately, if we're pouring love into it, it's going to filter into everything else that we're doing. How many young Nubian parents do you know who wish they could share with their kids abroad, in the diaspora, something that would connect them back? So that when they take them back for a visit, they can relate. They'll hear a name and be like, oh, I know that name. This is this character, or that is that character. And the meanings of it. And I think Arbab, you have there's another comic coming through that's specifically Arbab.
Yeah.
You want to tell us a little bit about that while I share your social media links for people to follow?
Well, I don't want to spoil too much, but what is it? It has to do. It's called Arbaab and Khairtum, and if you, I guess, know a little bit about Khartoum as the city, there are two conflicting narratives of how it was founded. The first narrative is that it was founded by a Mahasi Nubian sheikh named Arbaab al-Agaid, and there is, so basically it's this kind of like Muslim northern city, and he named it either Gartu, which means like belly of the river in Nubian, or Khurtum, based on like the Arabic word for elephant trunk. Or there's this alternative narrative that it was founded by the Dinka, the people of southern Sudan, and they named it Khairtum, which means the place where the rivers meet. So, I'm not going to spoil too much about it. It's going to be quite different from the Miracle of Amanirenas, but it's still something, I'm going to have fun writing and drawing. I'll just say that, and hopefully you guys enjoy it as well.
Yes, 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 yes. I go off script quite a bit because I go where I'm guided, and obviously I'm really excited to see what's coming next. And if you haven't seen already on Twitter, Winji already started a bit of a tour,
Yes.
venturing outside of Nubia into Habashinia and having her bunna ceremony and her jabana. And it's just really, really, really amazing work. And I'm sure you're learning quite a wealth of knowledge and information, which you share with us in your appendices to each of these pieces. So please continue doing what you're doing. And in the spirit of sharing knowledge or things that you come across, can you tell our people something, our family here tuning in from around the world or watching this later, some fun facts, something people may not know about your country, about your land?
There's a lot. Let's see. This is going to be weird. We use sorghum. We have done everything that could possibly done with sorghum. We eat it in the form of kisra. We drink it in the form of abre. There is alcohol made of sorghum, which I'm not going to name the name of in the interest of appropriateness. We literally have a skincare product, Dilka, which sorghum is a part of making. And I think this is one of the things that connects, the entire Sudan, not just Nubia, not just, Khartoum, but like every corner of Sudan has sorghum as this important staple. It's why there's a people of the sorghum fields, because I chose each of these crops carefully, and sorghum is so important to the diet of, to the lives of the people of Sudan that I had to include it.
Would you mind sharing the appendix just a bit and maybe tell us a little bit more about your choice of, I didn't know that about sorghum. I mean, you hear it quite a bit, but I didn't know all of that. So I'm learning, and I'm here, and I learn to teach as well. So if you can share, obviously, Lamoon, so much with that. So much. I think we have so many songs as well about lemon and the lemon tree, and it's quite symbolic. So can you delve a little bit more into that?
Yeah, so to talk a little bit about the choice of crops. Okay, the first one is the palm tree, right? So there's this song called Nubanuttu, the people of Nubia, and in it, the singer says, Nuban berag minni, what's the symbol of Nubia? And the chorus answers, Fentina silina, the smell of dates. So the palm tree is a really core part of the Nubian identity. It's one of the main crops in the far north of Sudan, in Nubia. And so I chose explicitly, okay, so one of the crops that's going to be represented here, what one tribe is going to consider its symbol, will be the palm tree. Then there was the sorghum, which I kind of explained, and then there was the lime grove. Like you said, so much music is written about, limes. We call them lemun. I originally had lemon grove in the script, but apparently the green one has to be a lime. I personally think the distinction is nonsense, but for me, it was kind of more of a personal thing. In my village, that, where I come from, where I go to when I visit Sudan, we have a lot of lime groves. We have a lot of people have a lime tree in their house, and we have the best limes in the world. I will fight anybody to the death on the truth of that statement. So I said, okay, I'm going to put a little bit of myself in here. I'm going to put a little bit of Arbaab, my village, in here. There's going to be one group that centers themselves around this lime tree.
You see, when you just said, I'm going to put a little bit of myself in there, rang really true with what Cantrell was saying earlier, is that writing these children's book is our chance to recreate, not just reclaim, but recreate the narrative.
Yeah.
Have a hand in the reality that our youth will grow into and be part of. And in so many ways, that is that bridge. Again, how we bridge Nubia into all that is outside, how we bridge Sudan into what is beyond Sudan. And it's all part, again, within the theme of today, the 22nd of November, the Global Day of Action for Black Power, is all about finding these dots to connect, because there's nothing new under the sun. And we are one. It's how we come together. It's what we're learning from each other. It's how we see each other and see each other's truth and be comfortable in that, be comfortable in that. In your comic, the people bickering back at Amanirenas saying, what do you mean drop our weapons, are the men.
Yes.
And be able to say, trust me, and be able to see that even if it doesn't make sense at first, if one of our own is saying, trust me, sure, right now in this state of survival mode that we have been traumatized into collectively as people of African ancestry, there is that issue with trust and the oppression Olympics that's going on. But being guided with our souls and our spirits and feeling what is right and what may not be so is being able to say, listen, one of your own is telling you they're here for you and they're going to help you.
Yeah.
And being able to say and to see, I'm not one of you, but you still showed me generosity. That's what we are. That's who we are as a people. Truly. You're not rich, but you still took me in. That's who we are as a people. And this emphasis and this reiteration and the fact that it's the same words. We are Nubians. We are Nubians. This is what we do. It's amazing. Okay, I'm
Thank
gonna
you
stop.
So much.
I'm gonna stop.
Thank you. No, I love it.
You have questions.
So much.
Tell us. I want to definitely share the appendix, and here we have the. Oh, you want to share the news? At least that it's in talks about the potential of Amanirenas being translated.
Yes. Absolutely. We are working on having an English, an Arabic, and a Nubian version of this comic. I am currently, on the hunt for translators. I've found one who I think is going to be pretty great, and hopefully to have two in there. You know, it's essential that this is a part of preserving the Nubian heritage, preserving the continuity of that culture. And I think it's essential that the language is represented in there as well, to make it as accessible as possible, but also to have it there as a learning experience. Who knows, maybe the Nubian learners of the future will read The Miracle of Amanirenas for practice.
Yes! Why not? Why not? You heard the brother. You have the GoFundMe campaign. Pour what you can in it. You have a birthday coming up. Share that link. Share your blessings. Because I can't tell you how many young Nubian parents, Nada, I'm thinking of you, how many young Nubian parents would say, we really want our kids to be able to engage with this culture, but we don't even know much about it. And as you said, I mean, just by seeing the feedback on Twitter, we're having so much more fun with this with this comic than maybe our younger brothers or sisters or nephews or nieces or children, whatever. But there is a demand for this, and we can sit here and say, oh, we need this, or we can find someone who's already doing it and push them forward and uplift them and allow them to do more, and maybe inspire others to join. And one of my favorite feedbacks to seeing just our community, our people receive The Miracle of Amanirenas was the suggestion for it to be animated, for it to be a cartoon. Now that's a dream. It is my dream to erase Bakar. Bakar has done. I don't mean erase it in that, because on some level it was still representation, but what kind of representation also matters. Conscious representation matters. What kind of information, what kind of messaging we're sending out there matters. Why is Bakar's favorite friend a goat? Like, why is his best friend a goat? What are the other kids doing? There's so many questions into that, but I digress, because we can take this into a completely different direction. I just want to make sure I went over at least some of the questions that I had, because there's a lot, as I mentioned.
Yeah.
Here. Okay. So without focusing too much on Winji as Winji, although I think we should have a separate episode just talking about Winji, just for my niece Winji as well. But Winji in many ways is a Kandaka in training. Mm-hmm. And within the context of this global Black Lives Movement and the message that Amanirenas is sending, and then if to contextualize it within our sheroes and heroes and our martyrs of the Sudan revolution that continues to date, because revolutions don't stop. Amanirenas said, put down your weapons. Our martyrs, our sheroes, our heroes went out and said, Silmiya. Within the context of the global Black Lives Movement, it's hands up, don't shoot. There is a message of non-violent resistance. There is a message of saying, we exist, we are here. There is a continuity that not you, not any system can break. Right? How does Winji How can Winji help further this message and contextualize it not just for young young Kandakas, the young Winjis and the Onetis? How can she send that message also to the young Arbaabs and the young the young Mazins?
The way I envision Winji is, like you said, a Kandaka in training and a part of that is, learning self-love, like I said, through this connection with her heritage. And, I think a lot of these efforts on the part of her elders for usually it's our fault, don't really work, right? But like this time it works. Winji is like, her eyes light up. She's enthusiastic when she learns all this. When I write Winji, I I think of me in a way, honestly, in terms of this person who is, learning so much about themselves through their history and is learning to draw power upon their legacy. And power doesn't just have to be violent. Power can be in unity, and it can be in relying on, the things you currently have. Because you think back when Amanirenas says, trust me, what she's really telling the Nubians, in my mind, is trust you. They don't really believe that they have what it takes, without relying upon this, this kind of like tried system that was likely used to subjugate them. They don't have confidence in the things that they already have in their culture and their history. But Amanirenas teaches them this. So in the same way she teaches, she teaches Wingi this, and she teaches us this. And for the young Arbaabs and Mazins, hopefully they also come to realize that some of the oppressive structures that seem, fixed and necessary, really aren't, including the ones that always will place a man at the center of the narrative. Maybe these oppressive systems, we don't need to repurpose them to fight our oppression. What we need to recognize is they're not as natural as they seem, and we just need to trust ourselves to find other, more creative ways.
I don't think there is a better way to end this conversation. Not that I want to end this conversation, but I don't think there is a better message to leave our family, to leave our people with. And I'm just going to repeat it because it warrants repetition, and it warrants that we sit with this statement just for a little bit and understand what's being communicated to us here. When Amanirenas says, trust me, she's essentially saying, trust you. Let that sit in to every single person who has said Kandaka. Take that. And I speak specifically to the Sudani youth here. Take that in. Trust you. Remember the first condition that Amanirenas gave to the people of Nubia in this comic so that she may help. Stop fighting each other. Stop finding ways and reasons to fight each other. We have so much more to bring us together, to bring us to move forward together and uplift one another than we have to divide us. Trust you. And trust me when I tell you, you need to support this brother and go fund me and not stop talking about the miracle of Amanirenas, of the Kandaka in training that is Winji. Follow her journey. Follow this body of comics that is inspired by a vast and rich heritage. And I will yield to my brother Arbaab here and ask him if there's any last words he would like to share before we say good evening and good night till next time.
Really, nothing to say. Thank you so much for having me, Dima. Thank you so much for this conversation. And I just want to say to everybody, thank you for all who have, really supported this project and supported my illustrations before. And I hope to keep having your support and keep making you proud and keep giving you ways to see yourselves in a different light.